I accidentally discovered a group chat where my fiancée referred to me as an emotionally supportive wallet, leading to a conversation with her friend who encouraged her to milk it, and I chose to remain silent, only to be bombarded with 32 unanswered messages from her before she showed up at my door screaming my name. I've always believed that relationships were built on trust. That's what Emily and I had, or so I thought. We'd been together for a couple of years, and life seemed to follow a steady rhythm. We lived in the same apartment, shared our days, and occasionally bickered about the little things: who left the laundry basket on the floor, who didn't take out the trash. The usual stuff. But there was a quiet tension between us that I couldn't quite place. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, maybe stress from work or the everyday grind getting to me. But as weeks passed, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Emily had been acting distant, her eyes constantly on her phone, her mind elsewhere when we were together. She wasn't the same person I'd fallen in love with. The woman who used to laugh at my jokes, who would send me sweet, random texts, now barely acknowledged my presence unless it was necessary. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was a phase. Maybe she was busy, or tired, or maybe I was being paranoid. But one evening, as I sat on the couch, half watching a show and half waiting for her to acknowledge me, I caught a glimpse of something that made my heart drop. Her phone buzzed across the coffee table. She picked it up absent-mindedly, and for a moment, I thought nothing of it. But then I saw her swipe down on the screen, opening a group chat with her friends. It wasn't something I'd normally check. I respected her privacy, but this time, something made me pause. A gut feeling I couldn't shake. I leaned forward, my heart pounding in my chest. My eyes couldn't help but track the words as she scrolled through the messages. They weren't meant for me. The words weren't even about me directly, but they stung just the same. An emotionally supportive wallet. That's what Emily had called me. I blinked, reading it again, trying to make sense of it. It wasn't a compliment. The message was followed by a response from her friend: "Girl, milk it." A wave of confusion and disbelief washed over me. I didn't know what to do. It wasn't just what they said, it was how it made me feel. I was supposed to be her partner, her equal, someone she could lean on emotionally, not just financially. Yet, there it was in black and white, her casually reducing me to a source of support, a means to an end. I felt my chest tighten, anger and hurt bubbling up inside me. But I didn't react immediately. I stayed silent. I didn't say a word. My mind was racing, and my heart ached, but I didn't want to start a fight without knowing more. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. I kept telling myself that. Emily was still on her phone, laughing with her friends in the chat. I sat there, watching her, unsure of what to do next. Did I confront her now, or did I wait? The last thing I wanted was to accuse her of something she might not have meant. But something deep inside me told me that I had every right to feel hurt. The night dragged on, and we didn't speak much. She was lost in her phone, and I was lost in my thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. My stomach twisted every time I thought about it. Eventually, she climbed into bed beside me, as if nothing had happened. She curled up close to me, her head resting on my chest. But I couldn't bring myself to reciprocate the intimacy. How could I, knowing that I was just a wallet in her eyes? I stayed awake for hours, listening to her quiet breathing, wondering what had happened to the woman I loved. Had she always seen me this way? Or was it just something that had developed over time? Whatever it was the first crack in the foundation of our relationship. And that crack was only going to grow. The following days felt like they were dragging on, each one heavier than the last. I couldn't shake the image of her message from my mind, emotionally supportive wallet. I kept replaying it over and over, like a broken record that wouldn't stop. I tried to act normal around Emily, but I could tell she noticed the change in me. I wasn't as affectionate as I used to be, and I wasn't as eager to talk about our plans for the future. The air between us had become thick with unspoken words. She had no idea what I'd read. I hadn't mentioned it, and I wasn't sure how to. What could I even say? How do you tell someone you've seen them refer to you as nothing more than an ATM and an emotional crutch? It didn't feel like something that could be brushed off with a simple conversation. Emily, on the other hand, seemed completely oblivious. She went on with her usual routine, calling her friends, texting them constantly, going out with them on weekends. Her attention was still fractured, always split between the people around her and the digital world she seemed so engrossed in. I felt more and more like an afterthought, like the thing she put in her life for convenience. As for me, I couldn't help but feel resentful. I'd been there for her, supporting her when she had tough days, cheering her on in her career, comforting her when things went wrong. And now, it felt like she had taken all of that for granted. My role was so much more than that. I wasn't just there to fill her emotional gaps or foot the bill when needed. I was her partner. But somewhere along the way, I had stopped feeling like one. One evening, I finally broke the silence. We were sitting on the couch, side by side, but the distance between us felt like a chasm. The TV played in the background, but neither of us was paying attention. Emily was glued to her phone again, texting someone, probably her friends. I glanced over at her, and for a moment, I thought maybe I should just let it all go, pretend nothing had changed. But I couldn't. I said, my voice quiet, hesitant. She didn't hear me at first, too absorbed in whatever conversation she was having. I repeated her name, louder this time. Can we talk for a minute? She looked up, her face puzzled. About what? She didn't seem particularly concerned, more like she was simply checking off a box in the day's agenda. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to come off as accusatory, but I couldn't just hold it in any longer. About us. About how things have been lately. Her brow furrowed, and she sat up straighter, setting her phone down. What do you mean? Her voice wasn't defensive, just curious, like she had no idea what was coming. I took a deep breath. I could feel my pulse in my throat. I've been feeling, I don't know, distant from you. Like we're not really together anymore. Like I'm just here to help with whatever you need. Emily blinked, her expression shifting between confusion and surprise. What are you talking about? I hesitated, unsure if I should go any further. But the words started tumbling out before I could stop them. I read something the other day. In your group chat with your friends. You called me an emotionally supportive wallet. Her face froze, the blood draining from her cheeks. The silence between us grew, thick with the weight of what I had just said. It wasn't an accusation, it was more like a soft, painful revelation. The words hung in the air, and I watched as they slowly sank in. I didn't mean it like that, she finally said, her voice shaky. I nodded slowly, not sure if I could believe her. How did you mean it, then? She bit her lip, her eyes flicking around the room as though searching for the right words. It's just a joke. A stupid joke. My friends and we mess around like that. I felt a sharp pang in my chest, but I didn't let it show. A joke? I repeated, my voice tight. You call me that, and it's just a joke? Emily's face softened, and she reached out to touch my arm. I'm sorry. I didn't think it would hurt you. But I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. The damage had been done. The hurt was there, lodged deep inside me. You're not sorry, I said quietly, pulling my arm away. You're sorry I found out. Her mouth opened as though she wanted to argue, but no words came out. We sat there in the silence, neither of us sure what to say next. I could feel the anger building inside me, but I held it in. For now, I just needed to think. I'll be in the other room, I said, standing up slowly. I need some space. I didn't wait for a response. I left the room, leaving her sitting there alone, her face a mix of guilt and confusion. And as I walked into the bedroom, I could still hear the quiet hum of her phone, buzzing with new messages from her friends. The hours after I left Emily in the living room were a blur. I paced back and forth in the bedroom, replaying the conversation over and over in my head. Every word she said felt like a lie. It wasn't the first time she had downplayed something that mattered to me, but this time, it was different. This time, the betrayal stung deeper. I wasn't just someone she could push aside or ignore when it was convenient for her. I was supposed to be her partner, her equal. And yet, she had reduced me to something disposable. I tried to distract myself. I grabbed my phone, scrolled through random articles, checked emails that didn't matter. But none of it kept my mind from drifting back to the group chat, to those words she had written. Emotionally supportive wallet. They echoed in my mind like a broken record, reminding me of just how far we had drifted apart. I glanced at the clock. It was getting late. I wondered if Emily had gone to bed, if she was still sitting out there, silently hoping I'd come back and everything would return to normal. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't just act like nothing had happened. Not after what I had seen. I knew she was probably still texting her friends, possibly trying to cover her tracks or justify what she had said. The thought of her smiling at her phone, sharing moments with people who saw me as nothing more than a financial backup, made my stomach turn. And then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Emily. I stared at the screen, hesitating before I even opened it. The familiar feeling of dread and anger returned as I clicked on the notification. "Can we talk? I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Please don't shut me out." My fingers hovered over the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her stew in her own guilt. But another part of me knew this wasn't going to get resolved unless I at least heard her out. I didn't want to be the bad guy, but I also couldn't keep pretending things were fine. I typed back, "I need some time to think." A few minutes passed. Then another message popped up. "Please. It's just that I've been feeling overwhelmed. Work, everything, you know how it is. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry." I stared at the message for a long time. It sounded genuine, but there was still that nagging voice in the back of my head. How much of it was true, and how much of it was an attempt to soften the blow? Was she really sorry, or was she just trying to keep me around because it was convenient for her? I sat back on the bed, my mind spinning. I wasn't ready to forgive her yet, but I knew I needed to talk about it. This silence, this distance between us, wasn't helping anything. But even as I decided to respond, another notification popped up. This time, it was a call. From Emily. I stared at it, debating whether or not to pick up. The anger I felt was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but I didn't want to let it fester. Maybe this conversation would help. Or maybe it would make things worse. Either way, I needed answers. I swiped to answer. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hi," Emily's voice came through, soft and tentative. "Look, I don't know what to say. I messed up. I shouldn't have said that about you. It was a joke, but I know it wasn't funny. I never meant to make you feel like you're just there for my convenience." I didn't reply right away. I let her words sink in. I could hear the sincerity in her voice, but there was still a part of me that was skeptical. Could I really trust her again? "I don't know what to say either," I finally said. "It's hard to just forget about something like that." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I get it. I do. I'm sorry, everything has been so overwhelming lately. But that's no excuse for treating you like that." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the doubt in my mind was still there. How could I forget what I'd seen? How could I forget how she had casually made me the punchline of her friends' jokes? It wasn't just a slip-up, it was something that had been thought about, typed out, and sent. It wasn't a one-time thing, it was a pattern. "I don't know if I can just move on from this," I said slowly. "It's hard to just pretend it didn't happen." She sighed, her voice full of frustration. "I'm not asking you to forget it. I'm asking for a chance to make it right. I can't fix it overnight, but I'll do whatever it takes to show you I didn't mean to hurt you." I leaned back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I didn't want to shut her out completely. I cared about her, too much to just let go of everything without a conversation. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore how I felt. My trust had been broken, and it wasn't going to be easy to rebuild. "I need time," I said softly. "I'm not sure what the right next step is, but I need time to think about all this." There was a long pause on the other end. Emily's breathing seemed to get heavier, and I could feel the weight of her disappointment through the phone. But I couldn't rush this. I couldn't make a decision based on hurt and anger alone. I needed to clear my head. "I understand," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'll give you space. Just know I love you, and I'm sorry." I didn't respond right away. I didn't know what to say. After a few seconds, I ended the call and set my phone on the nightstand, feeling drained. The silence that followed was deafening. The days that followed felt like a slow, torturous march through uncertainty. I tried to focus on work, to distract myself with mundane tasks, but everything seemed tainted. The memory of Emily's words haunted me, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong between us. Emily had kept her distance since our phone call. She respected the space I asked for, but I could tell she was struggling. She sent me occasional texts, short, apologetic messages, nothing too personal, nothing that could lead to another argument. It was clear she was trying to do the right thing, but something was missing. The warmth, the closeness we once had, felt like a distant memory. I tried to be patient, to give her the benefit of the doubt, but my mind kept returning to that group chat. Emotionally supportive wallet. Those words were a constant reminder of how little I felt seen, how easily she had dehumanized me for the sake of a joke. Even if it was a joke, it wasn't funny. Not to me. And it wasn't something I could just forget. One night, a week after our last conversation, I was sitting at home alone. I'd gotten used to the quiet, the solitude. Emily was out with friends, likely spending her time texting them, doing whatever it was she did to escape. I couldn't blame her. I had my own way of coping too. But that night, the loneliness hit harder than usual. The emptiness of our apartment felt suffocating, and I found myself replaying everything once more, the look on Emily's face when she found out I had read the messages, the way she apologized without fully understanding the gravity of her words, the way she seemed to think I could just let it go. I wasn't sure if it was her or me that was changing, but the shift was undeniable. The doorbell rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I checked the peephole, I saw her. Emily stood on the other side, her face flushed with urgency. I couldn't tell if she had been crying, but there was a desperation in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. I opened the door before I could think better of it. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to slam the door and shut her out forever. But another part of me, the part that still cared, the part that didn't want to throw everything away, knew we needed this. We needed to have a real conversation, one that didn't involve half apologies or avoidance. I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in the living room, facing each other, the tension palpable. Neither of us spoke for a long time. I could feel the weight of her stare, but I didn't look at her. My eyes were fixed on the coffee table, my mind a swirl of emotions I couldn't quite sort out. Finally, she spoke. "I can't keep pretending that everything is fine between us," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. I keep thinking about what I said, and I hate myself for it. I never wanted to make you feel like you're just there to support me financially, emotionally. I didn't mean for it to sound like that, but I see now that I've been taking you for granted." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to say something, to let her know how much her actions had hurt me, but I couldn't find the words. Instead, I just nodded, unable to speak. "I've been so selfish," she continued, tears welling up in her eyes. "I've been so focused on everything else in my life, that I stopped paying attention to what really mattered. To you." I could hear the guilt in her voice, but it wasn't enough. I didn't know if anything could be enough anymore. I wanted to believe that she was sorry, but trust, once broken, wasn't something that could be repaired overnight. Not after everything that had happened. I stood up, pacing the room. "It's not just about what you said," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. "It's everything. It's how I feel like I've been nothing more than a tool in your life, there when you need me and gone when you don't. I've been putting in all this effort, trying to make you happy, trying to be there for you, and you've barely noticed." Her face crumpled at my words, and she stood up too. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to feel like that. I never wanted to make you feel invisible." The tears were streaming down her face now, and it broke me to see her like this. But I couldn't just forgive her in the moment. The hurt was still fresh, still raw. "I need time," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I need space to think about whether or not this is something I can move past. I can't keep pretending everything's fine when I feel like this." Her hands shook as she wiped her tears away. "I understand. I'll give you the time you need. But please know that I love you, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove that I can change." I looked at her one last time, my heart aching. I didn't know if I believed her yet. But I wasn't ready to give up completely. "Not yet. I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk again," I said quietly. She nodded, then slowly walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned back, her voice a broken whisper. "I'm sorry, truly." And just like that, she was gone again, leaving me alone in the apartment that no longer felt like home.